think, yeah, I can see all of them, I guess. So, Swaminathan is here, Jnanadeepan is here, Vasant is also here. Vasant, you logged in? Vasant? Vasant is trying to log in, so we have all three of us. So, what we will do is this is a direct interactive session. So, we have some of the students of the course, about 20 of you here. So, I'm not sure if you can, Karthik, do they have the rights to come on video and audio?
Yes,
or
sir.
the question comes only by chat?
Yeah, hello everyone. You can just unmute yourself and you can start asking the questions with Professor. Yeah.
Oh, very good. So you people can unmute yourself and ask questions. So we'll follow that model. So one by one you can do that, or you can also write your question on chat, and I'll be able to answer. So we can begin with any one of you coming live. Unmute yourself, come on video if you don't mind, and you can ask the question and try my best to answer them. Yes, we can start now. Any one of you? Yeah, please just ask one leading question, and that would help me talk a little bit about the topic that you are suggesting. I can do that as well.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, good. Go ahead, please.
Balaji
good.
here.
Balaji,
Hello,
yes.
sir. I'm Balaji from Chennai.
Yes, Balaji.
Actually, I have a doubt in our lecture 16, economic lot scheduling problems, where you have taught about the supply chain inventory. In that supply chain inventory, you solved a problem for a retailer and a warehouser. Okay, but you have considered a common rate of interest in the portion of CC, where C into I will come. You considered a common rate of interest. Okay, I'm if for to be more detailed, I'm referring to the lecture 16. What will happen in the same problem if the rate of interest of the rate of interest of the retailer is different and rate of interest of warehouser is different, because they might take a loan from different banks, right?
I understand. I'll try to answer that. Before that, I have to see exactly what it is, because if you say lecture 16 from memory, I just cannot recollect what is lecture 16.
Can I share the screen, sir?
Yeah, you can share the screen. If I look at the screen, I'll quickly know what problem we are talking about.
Just a second, sir. Let me open that.
I hope you'll have the right to share the screen. Let me just check that. You see if you have the right to share screen.
I'll give a permission to him. Yeah.
Okay, I think Karthik will give permission to Balaji to share screen. So please do that. Somebody look at.
Can try to share the screen.
Just a second. I'm just opening the video.
He's able to show that. It's fine.
Sir, I'm just sharing. Please let me know once it is visible.
Yes, yes, very good. Okay.
So I'm referring the this lecture, economic lot scheduling problem and supply chain inventory, and here. So here
that part I understand. Just give me a minute.
Yeah. Yes, sir, sure.
Three terms. So NQIRCAW by something. Okay. Is there a picture that I have? Is there a inventory picture in that video just before this, somewhere before this model?
A picture is not available, but I can show you the timestamp in the equation where you wrote. It's at 33.
Just scroll down. As you were scrolling down here, I can see a picture. So
yes, sir.
Oh, very good. So just go ahead. No, forget this. Forget this. Just show that. You can just scroll back. That somewhere here is there a picture? Just before I do this.
Yes,
I'm doing Clark and Scarf. That's enough. Okay, very good.
Okay.
I'll answer that question. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Just go back, and towards the end, I would have derived something. Just show that equation alone. When I derive it, final expression.
Final. Okay. This is the final expressions.
Very good. This is the final expression. Good.
Yes.
So let me answer that. I think you can come back to your normal video. You can stop sharing.
Sure. I think I've stopped.
Right. See, let me try to answer this question in two ways. One is the specific question that you asked. What will happen if the interest rates are different? Whenever you do these kind of derivations, you have a total cost expression. And then you write down the total cost in terms of some problem parameters. And finally, you want to differentiate and you want to give a nice solution. You want to give an answer in the form of an equation where you can substitute the values quickly and get it. Okay. So invariably in all these problems, in order to get that, that form where you have a very nice expression, we make some simplifications. So we at times would say that the interest rate is the same, borrowing rate is the same. At times we would say the order cost is the same for both the retailer and the warehouse. So when you make these assumptions, you get those nice equations. Sometimes differentiation is possible. Sometimes you can get some, you can use specific tools and so on. So in reality, when these values actually change, the only answer that I can give offhand is, number one is, of course, it's beyond this course. The exam part of this course, it's beyond that. I'm not going to ask you to derive a case where it is IR for the retailer and IW for the warehouse. I'm not going to ask you to do that. But I assume that the question is for understanding rather than for exam writing. So all you have to do is, at times you may not get a nice closed form answer that you got. That's all. So at times you won't be able to derive and get a nice little equation. So you might have to do a trial and error, and then you may have to substitute some values and get it. That's the only answer I can give you, particularly when you don't make these simplifying assumptions, right? Whereas whatever is in a text form of the course, you write an exam, and you are supposed to remember some equations. There you make these simplifying assumptions that the interest rate is the same, and so on. That is one answer to the question. Second answer to the question is, in some ways you have caught me right on the correct topic. I need to talk about this topic also. In fact, this morning I was thinking about how do I connect OM and supply chain formally, and your first question actually connected it. So this is the only model, if you see carefully, where you will have two players in the system, and you are trying to optimize it in a way from the point of view of both the players, which is the supplier as well as the retailer, the buyer and the seller, basically, right? Because you have two values of Q. So this leads you to the idea of supply chain. Whenever you look at an inventory problem, only from one person's point of view. For example, if you go back to the very basic inventory model, root over 2 into demand into order cost by carrying cost, is basically for the buyer. Because the buyer, whoever is buying, is going to incur the order cost, and this buyer is going to store it, is going to incur the carrying cost, and therefore you have this model. If you go back and see in this course, this is one of the very few instances in inventory where you will see that the optimization is done from the point of view of two people. Therefore, the idea of a supplier-buyer thing comes in and supply chain management comes in. That's another one. Third thing, if you want a tip, it's not an easy model. Right? It's not as easy. I mean, it's not very difficult, but it's not as easy and straightforward as the earlier one. It makes certain assumptions. That picture requires a lot more understanding than what you do in a normal inventory problem. So to that extent, it's a tough model. I can only give you a hint that since it's a tough model, the probability of it appearing in the exam is not very high. Right? I think I will possibly stop there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
so much for that question. Did I satisfy your, I mean, was my answer satisfactory?
Definitely, sir. Yes, I think in real world scenario, these complete things might change and we need to adopt accordingly. Maybe if possible,
Yeah.
we need to derive a new model if needed.
See, there are plenty actually, since you raised that question. In any course like this, I think there was a comment from somebody. We'll wait for that. I'll come back. I think it was Prashant or somebody had a comment. Let me just see who had a comment. Yeah, I think it's Prashant. I'll come back to Prashant after this comment or after answering Balaji. So, what happens is inventory is a very, very big topic, both in terms of subject matter as well as in terms of research. So invariably, whatever you said, somebody would have actually worked on it and would have done a research paper out of it. You and I are not going to see those research papers in this course. So within the 30 odd hours or 40 odd hours for OM, generally about 10-12 hours are given for inventory. And therefore, we would see a small subset of it. So every practical issue which could be generalizable becomes research at some point. Somebody derives an equation, puts it somewhere, and it becomes research. But if there is something which is not generalizable and is very specific to an organization, then it stays with the organization. And people who work in that organization modify those equations and use them accordingly.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yes, sir. I'm fine.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. So we'll move to the next person. If you have anything more, you can always come again, Balaji. Balaji, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sure.
Right.
I just
You
have
can
one
come
more
again.
questions. Maybe
Yeah.
I will come again after you answer this question.
Yeah, let's go back to this gentleman, Prashant Avadia. Scientific method of calculating the cost of ordering. Okay. Prashant Avadia, right? If you don't mind, Prashant, can you come on video? And can I look at you for a minute? Always good. We'll try to mimic a real class where at least you can see the student before you answer.
No, sir.
Yeah, that's Prashant. Very good. Let me try to answer this. How do I calculate the order cost? That's what you have said, right?
Right.
I think I would have answered it partly in the video itself. What you do first is, as in the video, you try to find out what are the components of the ordering cost. So general components of the ordering cost would be transportation cost. Somebody has to bear the cost of transportation because items are coming from one place to another. So transportation cost, insurance cost. Obviously, there has to be a transit insurance without which you are not transferring. What if an accident happens or what if there is a fire? All those things. There's an insurance cost. The insurance cost is only for the transportation insurance, not the insurance cost after you store it in your warehouse. That's a different insurance cost. If you have a transit insurance, then the insurance cost comes in. And then you will have, of course, cost of inspection, cost of packaging the items, packing the items, cost of inspecting the items. If there is any tax to be paid or if there is any toll to be paid. And then the cost of people who work in the purchase and other relevant departments. All these have to be brought down to an individual item level. Some of these costs are standardizable. Some of these costs are not. They depend on the organization. So it's not an easy question to answer. How do I practically find my order cost? So what companies normally do is this. If you take a period, month-wise, and if you have enough resources with you, you try to find out how much you have spent under various heads. And then you know this much cost has been spent under these various heads under order cost. And then you go back and find out how many orders have actually made. Divide one by the other, you get an approximate order cost. One part, yeah, good, yeah. I haven't finished my answer, but go ahead.
So these things will vary product to product. Suppose today commodity, this will not fit into the other commodity.
Yes. Therefore, the answer changes. So if you do what I said, the order cost will be the same for a matchbox as well as for procuring gold, let's say. I mean, I'm just giving you contrasting examples of an item which is very costly and the item which is not so costly.
Correct.
So obviously there is a flip side to the way to do it the way I've said. So you don't want to do that. So the next best thing you can do is now go back to these costs and find out how much of these are common and how much of these are depending on the product. So first pick out the shareable common component from all of them. See what will change if you are suppose you are transporting an item which is as costly as gold. What will change? Your insurance will change.
Right.
Everything will change, but certain things won't change. They will remain the same.
Right.
If the guy who is driving the truck doesn't know that it is gold, then it doesn't matter whether you are transporting a matchbox or a gold.
Exactly.
Transportation cost is going to be the same. So it's up to you to understand which one are common and can be generalized and across any product. This is the amount, and which of these depend on the product. It's not easy. It's not at all easy, but that's how they do it. Yeah.
So one quick input, sir. In case if I am buying something from a supplier, since I am being in sourcing, and if I ask the supplier to bear all the costs like transportation cost, insurance cost, transit insurance cost, and give me the landed price. The moment I see the landed price, after that, what would be my internal organization's cost? How can I get into that? I mean, as you said, like the people working on the administration department, people working in finance, people who are doing receiving. So again, their salaries are fixed. So should we go ahead and cut down at that level to find out the ordering cost, or how? I mean, because I'm not finding the.
It depends on with what accuracy on. See, let me honestly tell you that I have not worked in an industry to do this. So the knowledge that I am sharing with you is a knowledge that I have acquired over a period of time. I am talking to different sets of people and trying to understand the problem. So there is a lot of common sense hidden in my answer. Okay, if you ask me to validate my answer, I can't. But then the only answer I can give back to you is it depends on what kind of accuracy you want your answer to be. And why is that important? It's important because if you look at this formula, root over 2 into demand into order cost by carrying cost.
Right.
Your economic order quantity is not going to change so much if your order cost changes a little in a small range. If it changes, it's not going to change. But if the order cost is going to change in a very big range, then your order quantity is going to change. So it depends at the end of the day. And also it depends on the inventory policy. If you followed those lectures correctly, at some places I would have spoken about continuous inventory. Some places I would have spoken about periodic inventory. So when you do continuous inventory, your order cost is even more important. So depending on all these dimensions, the organization chooses to find out the level of accuracy for which I require the order cost. That's it. No specific answer.
Understood, sir. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Let's go to another person. I think Sunil Goyal. Where's Sunil?
Yes, sir. Sujal Goyal.
Oh, Sujal Goyal. I'm sorry. Sujal? Is that your name?
Yes, sir.
Sujal, right. How do you solve the LPP equations in aggregate planning? How do I solve the LPP in aggregate planning? Right, that's the question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the answer is you have something called the simplex algorithm to solve LPPs, linear programming problems. If you had a chance to do operations research, either through my course or otherwise in NPTEL, anything related to operations research will do this algorithm called the simplex algorithm. So, is that Sujal or is somebody else? I'm seeing. Yeah, somebody is raising the hand, right?
So not raising hand.
All right. So let's come back to Sujal. Then I will go back to the other gentleman. So Sujal, the answer is you have to learn operations research. You have to learn simplex algorithm and so on. The other way to answer that question is, if you are familiar with Microsoft Excel, right? Microsoft Excel. There is something called a solver add-in to our Microsoft Excel. You can find out through Google how to do that. And Microsoft Excel add-in or the solver, when you add it in, it can solve linear programming problems. There are enough tutorials available. You can just read the tutorials and you can find out how you can do that. I have also done that in some other course. If you go through my OR course for NPTEL, there are 2 OR courses in NPTEL. One is the video course where I write on the blackboard, and that's a more popular course. There is also another exam-based course, the MOOCs exam course, where I use PowerPoint. I don't write so much on the board. I use PowerPoints. There are short videos, 20-minute videos. And in those videos, I explain how to solve a linear programming problem using the Excel. So if you can look at that, you can do that. Otherwise, there are several open source material which will tell you how to solve linear programming using Excel. If you have the follow-up question, sir, are you going to ask me to solve a linear programming problem in the exam? My obvious answer is no, because I can't, I don't have the Excel solver for you for the exam. But I can always ask a small common sense question which you can answer without directly solving an NP. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Very
I
good.
had just one little more question
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
part period balancing that we use.
Part period balancing?
Yes, sir. Sir, in that we have setup cost and then we have inventory cost, and we continue adding inventory cost for consecutive periods and compare it. So, sir, I had doubt that in that it was said that which one is nearest to the setup cost, we take that one.
Yes, yes, yes.
Find the absolute difference.
Yeah, you do the absolute difference. For example, if the setup cost in that example was 300,
Yes.
so if at one point, say one period, it gives you 150, second period it gives you 349, then 349 is closer to 300 than 150. So it's not smaller or greater, which is closer. You're right. That is your part period balancing.
And sir, we take only 2 consecutive periods, or maybe continue taking periods, or
Till it comes. Generally, the kind of examples that we do in 1 or 2 periods, it will come, unless the setup cost is very high. Then you have to go back to practical thing that I think Prashant was talking. So you need to find out in reality what is the setup cost, what are the inventory costs in practice. Then it becomes specific to an organization. All right.
thank you. Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you, Sujal. Right. Next, I see Abhishek Agarwal, who has just said good evening. So, Abhishek Agarwal, you want to tell something, or you just want to stop with the good evening? Abhishek Agarwal, yes. In the second week, you have used the concept of Northwest Corner rule, while it was not discussed anywhere in the previous video lectures. Is there a prerequisite knowledge which we must have, or do you suggest? Right. Abhishek Agarwal, you want to come on video, or you want to speak? Is that Abhishek?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Very good. Good evening. Yes, Abhishek. Okay. The answer to that Northwest Corner rule is it comes from what is called a transportation problem, which I have discussed very, very extensively in the OR course. So again, the same answer that I gave to Sujal. If you have the time, please visit my OR course, either the one where I do it on the blackboard or the one where I have PowerPoints. Both of them do a reasonable treatment on the transportation problem. So what you are asking me is actually a transportation model for aggregate planning, and therefore you may need some prior knowledge on transportation problem, and therefore you can get that by looking at the OR videos. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Very good. Right. Then we go to Shantanu Goel.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
So,
Shantanu. Yes, this is Shantanu.
yeah, sir.
Very
Can
good.
you?
Yeah, tell me.
Yes, sir. So my question was that you taught us the quadratic model, but you didn't solve it, right? You didn't.
Yes, yes, I didn't. Yes, I didn't.
So how are we supposed to solve the numerical on the quadratic model,
Very
right?
good. Okay, okay. Good question. I'll try to give you an answer which is quite similar to the one that I gave earlier. So as far as this exam is concerned, I'm not going to ask you to solve a quadratic model because solving a quadratic model, particularly the model that I described, is not very easy. So if this question is only from an exam point of view, the answer is don't bother. Just try to understand what is told and don't worry about solving the quadratic model optimally. Okay, that's the answer. But it's a very interesting question in the sense, why did I then discuss the quadratic model? I need not have discussed something. Now here I am discussing something and then telling you, well, I'm not going to ask you to solve the problem. The reason I discussed it is because one has to understand that while the linearity assumption is very good for everything, we are used to a linearity assumption. I've spent years doing linear programming. So invariably you'll have a feeling that there is a linear relationship. In reality, most of these costs do not have a linear relationship. They have a nonlinear relationship. Therefore, it is good to see a model and see how people have done this, trying to capture a nonlinear relationship. That's the purpose of doing that model. The purpose of doing that model is to tell you, look, we've seen so many things that have a linear relationship, but in reality, it's not so. And then you will ask a question, what will happen if I have a nonlinear relationship? If you have a nonlinear relationship, you have a very complex system that's being put. I don't remember exactly up to what point I have done that model, but what we did in that model was we used a set of we used quadratic expressions. If you see, the relationship was quadratic. I didn't use any cubic function or anything there, right? It's all quadratic. So we had a quadratic function, and then we had some equations which basically connected the beginning inventory and demand and all of that. So you have a quadratic minimization function and you have constraints, which are equations. So if I'm not sure how much of mathematics or operations research or nonlinear programming you are aware of, right? I'm not asking the backgrounds of all of you. I'm just trying to still answer assuming a certain background and giving you general answers. So if you have a good background in, say, operations research or any of these mathematical way of solving it, I'm sure if you at least go back to our high school days, somebody taught us how to do maxima minima when you had a single variable unconstrained function. Unconstrained, no constraints. Just the function is given. First derivative, second derivative, we all learned that.
Yes.
We also learned when you have unconstrained function, but multiple variables. We said dou f by dou x equal to 0, dou square f by dou x square, dou square f by dou y square. All these things. If you go beyond that, you may have learned something called Hessian matrix or a Jacobian matrix and so on. You may or may not have, depending on whether you learned mathematics or you did accounting. You could have, your education could be in any field. But if your education is closer to the math field that I'm talking about, then you would have done this. So right now we are looking at, wait, who I was talking to? Just a second. Shantanu Goyal. Okay, so I'm not seeing Shantanu. I think I'm seeing Abhishek Agarwal. Right. So Shantanu, just come on screen if you can. Yeah, that's Shantanu. Good. So the reason I'm telling so much is you have a quadratic function and then you have linear equations. Comes under what is called either quadratic programming or nonlinear programming, and there's enough math to do that. There are something called Kuhn-Tucker conditions if you have particularly more complex functions and so on. It depends on your background. By any chance your background is closer to engineering or operations research, or what is your background?
Sir, I'm a third year computer science engineer. I'm in my
Third year
sir.
computer science engineering.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I didn't hear the second part.
So I'm in my third year right now.
Right.
I'm in my third year right now.
Okay, understood. So third year student in computer science. So have you studied nonlinear optimization at any point?
No, sir. It was not
No.
taught to you.
So try to learn it. At least you would have enough background in maths to understand some of these, right? So have you done operations research at any point?
No, sir.
No.
Not.
So let me give this piece of advice. You have registered for the OM here.
Yes,
If
sir.
time permits and if you have the enthusiasm, do an OR course. Do an OR course. Or try to look at some of the videos of mine in OR. I would have done something towards the end of the advanced OR course. I would have done something on our linear program. So, or at least you can always look at other videos. I'm sure there are excellent
Yes.
videos on nonlinear optimization. So you'll use those techniques to solve. And since this course is a very general course, I haven't gone to the depth of using that technique. But as far as this model is concerned, you have a quadratic and then you have constraints. So remember, everything is based on calculus somewhere. So if you differentiate a quadratic function, you get a linear function.
Linear function. Yes, sir.
So you have finally, and set it to 0, you have a set of linear equations.
Yes, sir.
And solving linear equations is not very difficult.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is the broad guideline to solve. But there is enough literature to tell you that this particular quadratic model is actually not so easy to solve. So we won't break our heads trying to solve it. But if you like theory, you can read and try to learn how they are being solved. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. So there was one more thing I wanted to ask. So the exam which we will give, so will it be like a fill in the blanks exam or will it be an MCQ exam? Because sometimes we
Be neither. It will be neither. So obviously, I can't give an MCQ for a course like this and give some 50 MCQs and say, okay, you get 100 marks and so on. Doesn't make sense. So this will have numericals basically, and you might have to work it out. There will be a calculator. I think they will provide you with the system calculator to do that. And also, for example, there will be a reasonable range of answers that will be accepted, because sometimes you may get an answer like 2.722 and you don't know whether to type 2.7 or 2.72 or 722 or 7222. You wouldn't know. So you would type an answer which you think is good enough. But most of these questions will have sufficient range to cover the answer. So you don't have to worry about it.
So can we assume it to be like the assignments itself? The exams to be
More
like
or less the same style of questions. More or less the same style of numerical questions that you see here. I don't remember exactly what I've done. I might even have given some true or false or a few MCQs here and there. Honestly, I don't remember. I have to check something. But it will not be entirely MCQ or true or false. It can't be. It will have numericals and you will be allowed. There was another question which said, is calculator allowed? I think the system calculator will be provided. So you don't bring your calculator, but I think system calculator will be provided. Somebody had asked that question. Ankit Jaswani had asked that question. So let me look at Ankit after some time, but I think that answers your question. So right now on the chat, we have Shantanu, right? That's done.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Happy,
sir. Yes,
Shantanu?
Yes, sir. Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Then we move to Karunya Janaki Ravi. Karunya, is it okay? You want to come on video or?
Hi, sir. Good
Yes,
evening,
Karunya.
sir. I'm
Very
Karunya.
good. Good evening.
So I'm an MBA student. So actually, my question is general. So I wanted to know. So I'm interested in operations and I want to do research in operations. So I wanted to know which are all the current areas which I should explore more, which are currently of more importance now, and how I should go about it.
Before I answer, I just want to ask one question. What is meant by the word research? What is your understanding of the word research?
So
Do you mean something like what are the areas to concentrate further? Is that the intention? Or is it research in the, as the word research means?
No, actually, I was asking for a PhD point of view, but what
So you are asking from a PhD point of view. There are 3 people sitting here, 2 of them are doing PhD in this place. You would have contacted them, right? Do you know the TAs of this course by any chance?
No, sir.
Have you interacted with them in any form?
No, sir, I
No.
haven't.
Very good. Okay. Right. There are 3 of them TAs. 3 of them are Swaminathan, Vasant Raj, and Jnanadeepan. So out of these 2, Swaminathan and Vasant Raj are doing PhD broadly. Vasant Raj is even closer to operations management than Swami. Swami also would be in OM area. So, okay. Now to answer your question. So you are an MBA student and you want to look at a PhD.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are many answers to that. You could, the easiest thing to do is to concentrate more on supply chain management. Okay. So understand what is supply chain management. Try to read up SCM and see what kind of research goes on. You can go to Google Scholar. You can read research articles in Google Scholar, and you'll have a good idea of what kind of research happens.
Okay.
There are several people today work on identifying more practical problems. At times your research is based on a problem area or an application area. At times you concentrate more on the tools and then you do some research. For example, there are people who would keep or who would like game theory to be the tool or the methodology. And then you look at problems which can be modeled as games. So people do that. A lot of OM and related areas and problems can be modeled using game theory. So there is a large set of research that happens in that angle. This quantitative modeling type of research people do in supply chain management, particularly more areas like inventory, coordination, sourcing, supplier selection, and so on. At times, people even work on survey-based methods, which also involve a lot of quantitative modeling, or not modeling, quantitative analysis. So you try to understand, try to find out what are the factors that influence something. I see a lot of people today work on supply chain risks and risk mitigation in a supply chain. So what are the supply chain risks? How do I mitigate these supply chain risks? So you have all these kind of things which you can do. Anything specific you can ask. Karunya?
Sir, so actually currently, so I just know the subject as a whole, as a general view. So I just wanted to get an idea. So that is why I asked this.
Only other thing that I can tell you is if you want to do research, then depends of course on what area, where, when, how, so many questions are there. But whatever area you pick up before you go for an interview, read 1 or 2 books fully, textbooks fully. That will give you a good idea of how the area has progressed, what are the things to concentrate. And these textbooks, if they have some exercises, try to answer them. Answering exercises will give you a very good grip of something that you have learned. That's why you have all these assignments, questions, exercises, and all that. Do that. Your own understanding will get much better.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll move to somebody else. So Ankit Jaswani. Ankit? Yeah, you asked a very general question. So Ankit, let me just see you for a minute and then I'm done. I'm not going to ask you more questions.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes, Ankit, very good. So I think I answered your question. You said, are calculators allowed? Yes.
Yes,
Not
sir.
your
Thank you very
calculator,
much.
but system calculator will be allowed.
Thank you
Okay?
very much.
Right,
Okay, sir.
Ankit. Yes. Abhishek, we have answered Abhishek Agarwal. We now go to Ranjit Sahu. How to calculate safety stock in batch production and project production. So where is Ranjit Sahu? Ranjit?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes, Ranjit. What is the question? How do you calculate safety stock?
Sir, actually, I'm working in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited.
Oh, very good,
Sir,
very good.
Sir, actually, all our productions are mainly batch production. There is no continuous productions. Like aircrafts,
Yes, you will do batch production.
Time is too long, and sometimes we are sourcing all our items from the foreign countries also. So in this scenario, and during this pandemic situation, all these things, when this lead time is going to very high, so during this period, our production also getting hampered because of this requirement of items. So how to maintain the safety stock for this product like aircraft manufacturing?
As far as this course is concerned, I have tried to give you some answers, which is like a service level. And then you find out what is the corresponding safety stock, which I have given in this course. I would have done some probabilistic models where I would have given you, use a normal distribution, find the variance, Z sigma is your safety stock and all that. You can use those formula. Since you said you are from HAL, we also have some good working relationship with HAL. Yes, and IIT Madras and our group have been involved in
sir, during management
training
I was also there for training, sir. During management training, I was there for, yes, I was there for 6 months there.
Okay, when I was doing it some years ago,
yes,
is it?
Yes.
Okay, that happened quite some time ago. But anyway, so there I think we have more opportunities to look at these topics. And I think there is some more conversation happening between HAL and our colleagues. I remember one of our colleagues asking me, whether I could be part of a program that comes, and I have said yes. So I think at some point it's coming. The answer actually is, if you have all these delays that are happening, the only thing that you have to do is these. In order to overcome these delays, you have to increase your service level. So once your service level increases, the safety stock automatically increases. And also these delays will end up increasing the variance. So both Z and sigma will increase. The only issue is, how do you estimate sigma and Z? Z comes more from a gut feeling, because there are also models where the safety stock, there is one equation I would have done. I would have derived something called QCC by DCS. If you go through those equations carefully, I would have used Q into CC by D into CS. Of course, I would have said continuous model, but you can suitably adapt it even for a batch manufacturer. So CS is your shortage cost. So when you know that your production is going to be hampered by want of items, it means your shortage cost is very high. CS is very high. So when you do QCC by DCS, CS is very high, which means probability of a stock out is very small, and therefore your safety stock will be very high. So all you have to do is to understand what is your CS, what is your Z, which means Z comes from service level, and what is your sigma. And you have to calculate these specific to the organization from your data, and then use the corresponding model to find out the safety stock. That's my answer to your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you
very good. Thank you. We will move to the next person. Let me see who is the next person. So who did we speak to now? Abhishek Agarwal, Ranjit Sahu is done.
Hello.
Balaji, you want to come again? Yeah,
yes, sir.
Said,
yeah. So I have one. Actually, this is a very basic question on integrated model. So I will share my screen again to explain my. Yeah.
Sure.
Please let me know once my screen is visible, sir. So this is again a very basic question.
Okay. Yeah, I know this model. Okay. So tell me what is the question.
Yeah. So here basically you initially substituted S bar of X is equal to 0 in order to find the other parameters. Then we go back and substitute. But you have initially equated f of x is equal to 1 by 100 dx. I tried to understand this thing, but I was unable to understand. Maybe I'll show you 2-3 snippets where this is the equation which you solved here.
One second. No, not the equation. Just go go to rewind. Just go to the left
Okay. So
on your screen. Yeah, go ahead. Just before that.
Okay.
1 second. Yeah. Just a second. 150 to 250 I have written, right? Somewhere on the screen.
That is available here. This is the graph.
Okay.
This is
that comes because, so what I am trying to tell you is, in this model, weekly demand is uniformly distributed between 150 and 250.
Okay.
The expected weekly demand is 200. Just go to that previous picture that you showed. Showed a rectangle, right? Yeah, just that, that rectangle. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is, I've said uniform distribution. Okay. Do you have an idea what is a uniform distribution?
Yes.
Yes. So the probability of any demand coming is equal between 150 and 250.
Correct.
The expected value is 200. So if you have a uniform distribution between A and B, the expected value is A plus B by 2, and the range is B minus A.
Okay.
That's where the 100 comes.
So f of
demand
x
is between 150 and 250, right?
Yeah, correct.
So even though the general equation, when I write, I would say integral 0 to infinity, or I will put something. But the moment you are given the distribution, the range of value is only 150 to 250. That's why I said R to 250. R is between 150 and 250. So I've said R to 250 in this, when I'm writing this.
Okay, sir. But actually, the thing is, how f of x became 1 by 100? That is what my question.
1 by 100 is the range, no? So basically, the x is your, yeah. So when you do a uniform distribution, the probability of that thing happening becomes 1 by 100 because it's between 150 and 250, right? So the range is 100, therefore it will become 1 by 100.
Okay. So
That
all
is
f
how
of x will be equated with the 1 by the range.
Range. Yeah, 1 by range.
Okay, sir. So if it is between 100 and to 300, then we should put like f of x equal to 1 by 200.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Right. Yeah, I think, yeah, Balaji, you can stop sharing. I'll go to the next person. Balaji, I've done. 1 second. I just have to go to chat again. So yeah. So we go to Balaji, done. Sridharan, how many decimal places we have to use? Do we find Sridharan? You want to come on video, Sridharan?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes, Sridharan. So the answer to your question is, if you have a answer which is like 2, just write 2.
Yes,
if you have an answer which is 2.5, write 2.5. If you have an answer which is 3.33333 forever, write 3.33. So keep yourself to 2 decimal places.
Yes,
and you can round it off. For example, if your answer is 2.728, you can write 2.73. As I mentioned to somebody, there will be enough range given. You won't know the range, but when the question is being evaluated, there will be enough range given so that you will not get it wrong. If your answer is right, it will be right.
Yes, sir, what has happened in assignment 2, question number 7, the range was from 8.01 to 8.03. My answer was 8.0096. So it has showed that the answer is wrong. So only I came to doubt how many decimal places we have to use.
2 and round it off. So if you do 0096, you would have put 8.01.
Yes, sir.
But and it would still be right.
0096. Yes, sir.
It will be right. But those specific things you can always talk to the TAs, and when they bring it to me, I will give marks. And
sorry, no, sir. In exam, you will tell, sir, how many decimal, it will be better, sir.
Sometimes we will tell, sometimes if it is not told, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
You do 2. You keep 2 as your answer and do it.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Yes.
Ankit, how do I download last year's question paper is the question that you have asked. Swami, is there a way for him to download? No. So Swami says there's no way to download last year's answer paper, question paper. So the only thing is look at your exercises. Ankit, come again on video if you don't mind, please. So where's Ankit? Okay, so Ankit, we don't have a way to give you the old question paper, sorry. So just take the exercises seriously and you'll be able to do it. Okay, so I'm not seeing Ankit. So let me go to the next person. Next person is Ankit. You can come on video anytime. Okay, so we go to the next person called Agatyan Sannasi. Agatyan, you want to come on the video?
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, this is Agatyan.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So your question
Video
is,
on.
yeah, video is on. So
Okay, great. Nice to see you, sir.
you want to pursue a PhD in transportation management. Today, many tools work on predefined routes and few on dynamic routing. What is the area in which I should focus to design a model where a prototype on dynamic routing can be designed? Okay. Before I answer this, can I ask your education background?
Sir, I have done my MCA, BSc Computer Science followed by MCA.
Sorry, something followed by MCA. BCA followed.
BSc Computer, yeah, BSc
So
Computer
BSc
Science
Computer
followed.
Science followed by MCA. Okay. Dynamic routing. Okay. So what is
Currently,
your?
I am working in an industry. I work for Oracle. And my primary job is on supply chain management tool implementation designed by Oracle. And particularly, I work on transportation management, where we do order consolidation to optimize the transportation cost based on the route and the cost given by different carrier. So one of the key challenge what I'm seeing is the system is always expecting to define the routes in which the shipment will travel. Based on the order information, is there any way we can dynamically generate those routes into pieces, but where we can stitch those legs together so that we can optimize the route and cost based on the data what is loaded. So that's where I am looking at it. And
I'll try to give you a general answer, but please explore and ask this question to many others before you decide. I mean, my caveat is don't take my answer to be the best answer. You could have better answers from somebody else. But my answer is like this. You need a background in operations research if you want to work on this. The way I have understood your question, you need a background in operations research. You may even need a master's in operations research and then to get into this. And when you say dynamic routing, it's also important to have some idea. It's a general answer. So it's important to have some idea in stochastic optimization. So you may need to strengthen your knowledge in OR in particular before you venture. So do a master's in OR, try to get those skills, and then join a MS by research program and so on, or go to an OR department and join a PhD program, which can help you with this. That's my very general answer. Listening to you for a couple of minutes, but I'm sure there will be better answers than
yes, thank you for the suggestion.
Okay. So we go back to Sujal. Sujal again, what is your question? Where is Sujal?
Yes, sir.
There you are. So will the paper be solvable within the prescribed time? I think yes. So what I normally do is I solve the paper, and if I take 5 minutes, I give you 15 minutes. So that's the normal way to do it. So I guess there will be enough time to solve it. Yes, numericals will be there, but there will be enough time to solve it. Okay.
Also,
Sush,
sir,
yeah.
like there are given practice questions, there is given a graded assignment and non-graded assignments. Sir, the topics which are not covered in these three things, is there a chance that they may also come for exam?
Mostly they may not. That's the only answer I can give you. Whatever is covered in the assignments broadly will come. If at all it comes, maybe one question will come from the rest of them. And I won't take all the questions from those that are not in the assignment. I won't do that. It will be broadly whatever is covered in the assignment. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Sushil Kumar.
Yes, sir. Good evening,
Sushil
sir.
Kumar. Good evening. Yes, Mr. Sushil. What is the question? The most difficult items in inventory management are the shelf-life items. Are you going to touch upon this in upcoming modules of this course? Okay. I have not done that. Honestly, right now the answer is no. Right now I don't have plans of adding topics to this course or extending this course. Yes, shelf life inventory is a very, very important topic. Right now the answer is I'm not going to do that. If you want a more honest answer from me, I have to read up a little more. I have to prepare myself even better to answer questions on shelf life. It will take some time from my side. Right now I don't have plans of doing it. Already the content is very high for a OM course, and there are people who feel that my content is very high, so I'm not doing that. I think I've disappointed you with my answer, but let me be very honest with you.
Okay, sir.
I'm not doing that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. Thank you. So we'll go to Giri Gautam. Giri Gautam, you have just said good evening. Is there something else you want to tell?
Good evening, Professor. I am Giri Gautam. I am a project staff in IIT Madras.
Okay.
Sir,
Can you come on video, please, if you don't mind? It's always good to see the person to whom you are talking, right? Well, if you don't mind. Otherwise, go ahead with the question. Right.
Yes, sir. Sir, I just wanted to know, is there any way we can use this demand forecasting techniques which we use here to healthcare industry? Means, will we be able to correlate it?
Yes, the answer is yes. The models that are described here are very general and very introductory. Whatever is described in this course are very general and very introductory. Yes, healthcare industry uses a lot of forecasting and forecasting models. The answer to your question is yes, but not exactly as done in this course. So you have to go back, understand the system there, try to see what kind of, whether it's a trend model or whatever it is. You may not find seasonality because healthcare basically, at times one might say winter, the number of cases is higher and all that. So you have to understand the scenario and use corresponding models. In practice, models that are more sophisticated, models that are more specific than what I have used, they will be used in practice. But in a course like this, I only do very general and introductory models in forecasting. Right.
Sure. Adding on to my means, I have another question. Sir, you in this course we have something back order costing, right, sir? But in real life scenarios, how do we? Even you have said it, we wouldn't be able to equate the reputation of the company to the cost. But in real life, if so, the back order scenario is there. How do we exactly able to estimate it?
You won't be able to estimate. You go by a gut feel and you give a very large value there in the model. That's all. Actually, I have always said CS is infinity, but then you don't put infinity, you put a very large value. Sometimes you put 2 times the cost, 2 times the profit, 3 times the profit. So somebody decides and you put a very high value so that you avoid back order as much as you can. That's the best answer one can give at this stage for that question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Giri?
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the interaction. It was really nice conversing with you.
Very good, very good. Thanks a lot. So we'll go back to Ankit again. So this we spoke last year's question paper. Then let me go to Mangesh Itankar. Mangesh, do you have a question? Good evening to you. Do you have a question? Mangesh? Okay, I'm not getting Mangesh. So let's go to the next person, Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna, you want to come in person?
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Ramakrishna. Yes, you are audible, but I
Yes,
can't
sir.
see you.
Should
I can't see the face called Ramakrishna, which I would like to, if you don't mind. Yes. Very good, Ramakrishna. Now tell me.
Sir, I hope you can see my question. I'm in.
Yes, you are a BTech in CSE. Is it advisable for you to pursue this course, right?
Yes.
Okay, the answer is a large yes
Okay.
and no if you don't want to do this course. So there is no limit to acquiring knowledge. So a very general answer is yes, you can. If you ask me, should I do this course or should I do an OR course? My answer would be do an OR course.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say don't do this course. Because with your background, any domain knowledge would always help you. So this subject will give you some domain knowledge in a field, whereas OR will only give you tools. So the actual answer is do both if you have time.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And related to exam, we are going to write it outside, right? We don't have any textbook or video lecture with us. So I'm finding it difficult to remember the formulas, sir, exactly.
Yeah, but you have to remember that. That's what it is. So,
okay. Thank you, sir.
we are not going to allow you to take a sheet with all the formula. People have asked me, can I take a sheet with all the formula? No. It's an exam, right?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, we don't. How many exams allow you to take a sheet with all the formula? I don't know today whether things have changed. At least the days when I was a student, we never did that. At times, we used to sneak what is called clerk's table into the exam, and you could find out something from the clerk's table, but nowadays we don't do that. Okay, Ram Krishna.
Thank you,
Done.
sir.
So we see Mangesh. Mangesh.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you, Ram Krishna. Mangesh. Can we see Mangesh? Where's Mangesh? Mangesh, you want to come on video? Yeah, that's Mangesh. Good. Good evening. Tell me, do you have a question? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm Mangesh. I'm doing job in job type production industry as a deputy manager. My question is, sir, how can reduce the cost of without sacrifice of the quality related
Sorry,
to
can you repeat
supply
the
chain
question? Can you repeat?
how can I reduce the cost of job without sacrifice the quality?
I'm not answering that question in this course. I'm not doing that. But I've tried to answer this question in some other course. There is a course called Manufacturing Systems Management in NPTEL videos, where I speak about cellular manufacturing, just-in-time manufacturing, all those things. So you need to do that, read that. There is a topic called lean manufacturing or just-in-time manufacturing, which talks about how to eliminate wastes. So I may have spoken about it in the introduction, but I am not doing any models in this course. So please read that. They classified 7 wastes called 7 muda. So what you have to do is you have to go back to your company and then classify the things that you do and find out if any one of them come into the waste, and then you try to eliminate the waste and so on. So try to look at just-in-time manufacturing, lean manufacturing, cellular manufacturing. All these areas will give you some idea about how to eliminate non-value added or wasteful or cost increasing activities. That's the answer.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mangesh. Ram Krishna. Saravana. Saravana, you want to come?
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Yes. Let's see, Saravana.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Saravana. Do you want me to read the question, or you want? It's a private question, so.
Okay. No. Actually,
I'll leave it to you.
yes, sir. Actually, in my company, where there are actually always urgent requests to expedite the usual scheduling. So, is there any model or something, a model or any other system that could overcome this particular issue? Or
I can only give you a very broad answer to the question. This will vary depending on the company and depending on so many things. More than the name of the company, it will depend on the type of production, batch production, continuous production. It will depend on that. I'm not also going to ask you more detailed questions because it concerns your organization.
Okay.
So the answer to that is, in scheduling, there is always something called rescheduling or rescheduling, as it's called.
Okay.
So whenever you want to have this critical job, rush orders and all those kind of things, you do a reschedule very quickly. So if you have a scheduling software, it will allow you a reschedule. The only problem with rescheduling is it will take more time. Some of them get delayed and so on. As a methodology, the answer is there is something called theory of constraints or synchronous manufacturing, which is a methodology proposed by a person called Goldratt, Goldratt. There's a famous book called The Goal, written by Goldratt, The Goal.
Yes, sir.
You can read that book, that will help you. Read the book which is titled The Goal, an old book, 1982-83 book.
Okay.
You read that book, it will give you some idea. And after reading that, you look at this topic called synchronous manufacturing, also called theory of constraints.
Okay, sir.
So these will try to help you in some way to answer your question.
Okay.
This is a very general answer, because unless you know the specifics, it's very difficult to do that. But please do some of these. This will help you in a big way to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yes,
I have one more
yes,
question.
go ahead, go ahead.
So if you are considering a PhD student application, in their statement of purpose, for example, why they wanted to do the research, and the person may have a qualitative approach to the problem, but the expectation of the general research community is towards on the quantitative way of looking at the problem. And if a PhD student wants to increase his skill through the PhD program and admitting what are his lacks and what are his benefits that he had. So from a professor point of view, how would you evaluate or appraise that particular application or a statement of purpose, sir?
Interesting question. I'll try to give the best answer that I can.
Yes, sir.
If you ask me, have you guided a student who has done qualitative work? The answer is yes, 1 out of 10. 9 out of 10 did a lot of quantitative work. If I have to answer it, keeping me as a professor, my answer will be 1. I'll give you that answer. If you want me to answer this on behalf of my department, where there are at least 6 other colleagues, 7 of us in a group, I'll try to answer that.
Okay, great.
Or even more. The department has 25 faculty, the operations group has 7. So if I have to answer that question, my strength is in quantitative modeling. So when I take a student who is not going to work in quantitative models and is going to work in a qualitative analysis, case study based analysis. Remember, even survey questionnaires are quantitative, they are not qualitative. So typically case study based and other kinds of qualitative research. The first thing that I will know is that my contribution to the thesis is going to be minimal because I'm not good at it. I'm not going to pretend that I know something well, when I don't know. So it doesn't make sense. Therefore, I have to be extremely confident that this student is capable of doing the PhD himself or herself. And if we understand that, then we are not averse to picking such a student. Now, how do I know that this student is capable? Depends on how well the student writes the purpose, statement of purpose. And if the student is given a chance for an interview, how well the student presents his or her case. That's the answer. If I have to answer on behalf of my colleagues, the answer is even more positive because I don't even work on, I don't have PhD students who do questionnaire-based research. You create a questionnaire, you understand relationships, you conduct a survey, and through that you hypothesize certain relationships. I don't work on that. I haven't worked on that. I think only one student at some point did something. But then I have several colleagues who have students who work on these kind of things. So it's not that you don't want to do qualitative. You can always do qualitative. But the most important thing is you have to find out which is the correct place to do this and find out who is the correct professor to do this. That's all. That's the answer. I hope I have given you an answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In a great way. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Saravana. Interesting. Right. So we'll go to the next person, Prashant Avadia. I think Prashant came earlier. Did you? Yes. Yes. Prashant.
Yes,
Where's Prashant again?
Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, very good. You want me to read the question or you want to tell the question?
So it will be a pleasure for me if I tell it. So I was doing a course. It is a certificate course from IIM Kozhikode, which is by Professor Arkam Bateen and Professor Ashutosh. And offline, I asked a few questions about operation research to him, apart from supply chain. He mentioned about Professor G. Srinivasan from IIT Madras. And that's where I was curious to connect with you. And he mentioned that Professor Srinivasan is one of the best faculty in the country who can teach operation research to you. Nobody else. So that actually made me curious. And that's how I found NPTEL and got connected to this. And really, I find it very, very impressive and a deep learning on operation research. So thank you very much, sir, for teaching us and being there for us.
First of all, thank you very much for bringing this up. A little unexpected, but I'm very happy. Very happy to hear this. This is something you want to hear from a student, irrespective of the form of interaction or whatever. Yes, I know, and I've been in this. Okay, let me give you again a very honest answer. I've been in this field for nearly. I joined IIT Madras in the year 1990, so it is my 31st or 32nd year in the teaching, and I've taught OR almost all those years. So that's one. How do I know these colleagues in sister institutions very well? Yes, there are enough opportunities to interact with them. We also have something called SOM, Society of Operations Management. You can find out and Google it and find out. We have an annual conference in SOM, and almost a good number of people from the IITs and IIMs who do operations, supply chain management come to SOM. So that's one more way to know a lot of people. I have been involved with SOM right from the inception when we started in 1997. I've also been the president for a brief period. So we know a lot of people. Of course, Arkam is a fantastic person. Known him for a very, very long time. And I would even take the liberty of addressing him first name, though he's a professor. I can always address him as Arkam and he won't mind it. And yes, I was also his thesis examiner when he was doing his thesis in IIM Calcutta and so on. So the younger group of people in most of these institutions, they've all done their PhDs in comparable institutions. And invariably, having spent so much time in the system, I would either know the student himself in some form or the advisor in some form and so on. So that's how I know. I also know a lot of people from IIM Kozhikode. Some of my students are professors in IIM Kozhikode. People who did PhD in IIT Madras, they're all professors. So it's a very nice company to be in. Very happy, very thanks when I meet Arkam, I'll tell him thank you for spreading my name. But I'm very, very happy and I'm humbled by your reference. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Good, namaste. Anybody else is there on chat? Anybody has a question? Yeah, we almost spent an hour and a quarter, which I think reasonably exceeded our expectation. We were thinking of 1 hour. Anybody else has a question? Otherwise, we can close the meeting. But before we close the meeting, I'm going to ask one more time. We still have about how many participants? 27 participants are here. Anybody else just has a question? General, specific, whatever form?
So, Sarvana,
Yeah.
here. Sorry to
Yes,
bother you
Sarvana.
again.
Again, yes.
Yes, sir. Actually, I don't want to bore with you the question regarding the lessons, because I can rewatch it and I can repeatedly learning from that. But instead, I wanted to use this beautiful moment to ask you some other good question for me to understand about the career and other prospects. So, yes, sir. So, for example, now we are like in the moment, like competing supply chains to supply chains in the nature. But it's not like a company like Toyota who had built their own supply chain where they can compete against with some other companies called General Motors or maybe Ford, for example. But naturally, being a company where I work for, we actually serve 3 different supply chain leaders. So there, our company's basic objective is to earn for profit. So where there will be the markup for the price that we are selling at, right? So in that case, how do the supply chains actually compete with other supply chains? Because their profit and the business objective would mostly affected by our pricing and other stuffs. So how do we actually see from,
Difficult question, I should say. I don't have a direct answer. I'll tell you very honestly, I don't have an answer. It's actually a very interesting topic for research. Somebody can work on this, both qualitative and quantitative and so on. But I think you can read up some research.
Okay.
What you can do is, I'm only trying to give you a very common sense answer. Just go to Google Scholar and type competition in supply chain.
Okay, sir.
You may get some papers which are available. People would have at least tried to model it from a theoretical point of view.
Okay, sir.
As regards how practically you do it, I don't think anybody is going to share it.
Okay.
Because it becomes confidential and company specific and so on. So you won't be able to get answers to that unless unless you talk to somebody privately and that somebody is particularly if you are an OEM manufacturer. In my 30 years, my early years at least, we used to do some work for some of the TVS companies around Chennai.
Yes.
Companies like Lucas TVS, Brakes India. We used to do some work for them. Last few years, of course, I have not been in that space. I've moved to a different space. But early days, I'm talking about the late 90s and early 2000s, I used to do that. And then you visit a company like Brakes India or Lucas TVS, you will find that they actually supply to a lot of companies, which are all competitors. And therefore, you have to tread a very, very delicate path of every customer is important. At the same time, if A and B are my customers, A and B happen to be competitors. So how do the question that you posed immediately took me to that scenario.
Okay.
But then I hadn't answered that scenario because at that time, the nature of work that I was doing for them was also not at that level. I was doing more things like how to look at a line and look at a cellular manufacturing system. How do I calculate a takt time, or how do I look at machines here and there so that certain time is minimized? We're doing more of industrial engineering work, not the supply chain work. So I don't have an answer. But the only thing I can tell you is maybe try to read the theory part of it.
Okay.
Just put some things in a Google Scholar or Google. I'm sure you may get some answers.
Sure.
Thanks. Very good question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I was also referred by one of your student, Mr. Ramesh Krishnan. Currently is an assistant professor at IIM.
No, I am not no.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I am actually.
Ramesh, sir, I can see all the 3 of them smiling. I told you there are 3 TAs sitting here. I think all 3 of them know him, and all 3 of them are smiling.
Yes, sir. I'm
yes.
currently
Nice
collaborating
guy.
with him to convert my dissertation paper into dissertation into a paper. So I'm currently collaborating with him.
So you're collaborating with him?
Yes, sir.
Oh, very good, very good, very nice. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Somebody has Prashant again has said, "Can I get your email ID?" Okay. So let me try to type my email ID, and hopefully it's there for everybody. It's not very difficult to get it. Is that fine? That's my email ID. So
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for sharing.
right. Anybody else has a question?
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
This is Giri out there.
Giri Gautam again. This time, Giri, I'm going to ask you to come on video before I answer your question. I mean, assuming you have no objection.
Sir, am I visible, sir?
Let me tell you quickly whether you are visible. Right now, no, I can only see a blank screen.
Sure, there is a problem with
Oh,
camera.
don't worry, don't worry. Okay, now tell your question.
Sir, is there any difference between means a difference in the book of your 2010 edition of quantitative modeling in operations and supply chain management, 2010 and 2018 one? Is
Yes,
there
there
any
is a difference. There is a difference. The book is bigger in size. I've added some topics. There is a difference. Yes.
Okay, because I couldn't find soft copy anywhere. So whether to go, because soft copy is available only for 2010 edition. That's what I was thinking. Is there any difference for going for 2018 one or not?
There is a difference. There is a difference. But then I don't know who can give you a soft copy of the other book. I don't know. I'm not going to do it for the simple reason that I'm an author, and to be honest, no author likes free distribution of soft copies.
No,
of
sir.
his book.
No, sir. I wasn't.
Those things happen after some years.
No, sir. I
Anyway,
just wanted to know whether is there any difference, because
yeah, there is some
Indian
difference.
version
There
is
is.
available for 2010 one. So I just wanted to have soft copy, whereas in 2018 one, soft copy version isn't available in Kindle. So was
I don't
just
know. I think the publisher is doing something. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. So I've been trying to talk to them, but I don't know. They say that they have a Kindle version of that book, which is for a cost. So you have to check with them.
no. Yes, sir. It is available for 2010 version. 2018 there is no version of
I don't know.
Kindle.
I mean, if I meet them, I'll try and check with them on
Sure,
that.
sir. Thank you very much.
Right. So Agastyan, again, we need to go through the list of books suggested as reference, or it's okay. I think in general the video lectures are enough. You don't need. The rest of the references are given only for you to read something formally and understand. As far as the exam, I think the video lectures are enough, and the assignments and whatever.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, Arun, coming
Yeah,
first
sir.
time. Yeah, Arun, you want to come on video?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I'm
Arun.
here,
Yes,
sir.
yes,
Good evening,
please.
sir.
Yes.
Sir, it's very nice to hear your lecture series, sir. They are very informative. Just last week, I was working out this assignment 7, sir, in which there was one particular question which was asked. The demand for 2 weeks was given as 240, 200,40, and assuming a service level of 95%, what will be the reorder level? Sir, I could not find, because safety stock you have given, you have mentioned as Z into sigma. Z we can find out with in the normal distribution curve for 95% service level. But regarding the calculation of sigma, how do we get it, sir? Actually,
When I say 200,40, it means mean is 200 and standard deviation is 40. So sigma is 40.
mean is 200 and sigma. Okay, okay. Sigma
So when I
is
generally use that notation, A, B, it's mu
yes,
sigma.
sir.
So mu is 200, sigma is 40.
Okay, okay, okay. Right, sir. Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Right. Anybody else has a question? I thought somebody else was also talking when Mr. Tarun came in. Does anybody else have a question? Okay, we're almost done. It's about 18:25, so 1.5 hours. Just one last time, otherwise I'll close it. Anybody else has a hand raised? I can see Giri, Gautam and Sarvana, but I think we have spoken to all of them. Yeah, Sarvana still shows hand raised, but I think we spoke, unless you have another question. Right. Right now, we don't have anybody else with a hand raised or any comment. Therefore, let me wind up. So let me first thank all the people who came today. 1.5 hours is a very reasonable amount of time for a discussion. Let me see. 1 second, I don't know, just a second. I don't know whether it's connected to this or whether it's something else. Okay, sorry. So thank you. I just took the call to check whether it was connected, whether somebody else from NPTEL was calling. So thank you very much, all 23 of you. I think at some point we had even more. We had about 35 people. So let me also thank Karthik, who's always been very, very helpful in setting up these meetings. And we've done it several times. Thank you, Karthik. And also let me thank all the 3 TAs for this course who have been doing a very good job. Swami, Vasant and Jnanadeepam. And thank you all. So with this, let me wind up. Thanks again. Let's hope there's another occasion to meet in connection with this course. All the best to you. Thank you very much. I'll take leave and namaste.
Thanks a lot.